Hello, welcome to the magnificent West Point Cadet Chapel. My name is Craig Williams, and I am privileged to be the fourth organist choirmaster to serve in this building since it was built in 1910. This is a Gothic cathedral masterpiece that was built by the firm Cram, Goodhue and Ferguson, and it was modeled after 14th century English Gothic with some military motifs. The architecture firm really had a lot of fun designing this building. This building was built in 14 months by immigrants that worked around the clock. And it was dedicated in 1910, and what you see behind me is the stained glass window designed by the Willits Stained Glass Company of Philadelphia. And it's hard to see from this angle, but the inscription under Moses is the motto of the United States Military Academy: duty, honor, country. This chapel has grown and developed in many ways thanks to the alumni and friends of West Point. And so with this window behind me, they then developed people giving to the chapel to where now the entire building is surrounded by stained glass by the Willits Company. Of course, what concerns me is that other great monumental endeavor in this building, and that is the pipe organ here. This pipe organ began as your standard 3-manual organ with 38 ranks of pipes, 2,400 pipes, and the entire organ fit inside these chambers up above me here. However, the first organist choirmaster here, Frederick C. Meyer, recognized that 2,400 pipes were not going to adequately lead 1,500 West Point cadets in singing. And so he immediately began to make requests for donations to develop and build the organ. So what has happened in the last 110 years is that steadily this organ has grown through developing one division and then another to its present status, where it stands as the largest all-pipe organ in a house of worship in the world. It now numbers over 23,500 pipes, over 18 divisions. It is controlled by a 4-manual console. Some people may ask, well, why isn't the console bigger? It's because Frederick C. Meyer and every organist choirmaster afterward, including myself, has to be able to conduct the cadet choir from the console. And so it is a unique work of engineering where you have 874 individual moving stops very compactly placed on 4 manuals, creating what is one of the most tonally complete instruments in the world. Frederick C. Meyer was great friends and knew very well the designers of the Wanamaker department store organ and also Atlantic City Boardwalk Hall. And that is why those 3 instruments stand as the 3 largest organs in the world, located all here in the Northeast United States. So today what I intend to do is to take you on a little tour of this instrument. First, we are going to hear several works of organ repertoire that explore many different tonalities. You'll be able to hear Bach and the French symphonic tradition and many American chestnuts that just show the many colors of which this organ is capable. And then what we'll do is we'll take a little tour through some parts of this building that people don't normally see. Downstairs we have an organ shop. That's very unique. Not everybody has an organ shop. There's been an organ shop in this chapel since 1948. And then we'll also see some of the blower rooms. You'll get to see where some of the new work that we've done that looks really, really good, and then other stuff that still needs to be done. We'll be able to see some of the pipes up in the chambers above, as well as just being able to take in the sights of this chapel from above. So anyway, thank you for joining me today, and I hope that you enjoy this brief time that we have here in the West Point Cadet Chapel. This first piece that I'm going to play is by one of the greatest composers for the organ, Johann Sebastian Bach. This is a piece that shows off the full organo plano, and it is in his orgel book line. It's titled, "En dearest Freude," In Thee is Joy. I'm now going to play a piece that shows off the different trumpets in the organ, including, at the end, the big trumpet enchantment that is 170 feet from where I am standing now. This piece is simply entitled Trumpet Tune, and it is by the Massachusetts composer Roy Brunner. Trumpet Tune by Roy Brunner. One of the great 20th century American composers for organ was Calvin Hampton. And in the spirit of composing American pieces, Calvin Hampton wrote a very poignant setting of America the Beautiful. So as we stand here in this great Cadet Chapel at West Point, this is a very fitting piece, Calvin Hampton's setting of America the Beautiful. So now we're going to move from a great American composer to a great Nigerian composer and organist, Sowande. He was raised in the Anglican Church and became known as the Prince of Nigerian Organists, and then from there he moved to England. And while he lived in England, he developed a deep love for the American spirituals. It was during this period that he wrote the piece that I'm going to play now, Joshua Fit the Battle of Jericho. It should be noted that before he died, Sowande moved here to the United States and became a naturalized American citizen. So this is Joshua Fit the Battle of Jericho by Sowande. Going to go back to America now. Another very fine American composer of the 20th century who was very well recognized during her lifetime and then kind of faded a little bit, but now is coming back, especially in awareness of some of her organ works. I'm speaking about Florence Beatrice Price. She was actually the first African-American woman to have a symphony premiered by the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. But she did write several works for organ, especially later in life. She wrote some more sacred-sounding, contemplative organ pieces. And I'm going to play one of those pieces now. This is a piece simply entitled Adoration by Florence Beatrice Price. The last piece I'm going to perform today is from the great French symphonic tradition. And one of the greatest composers from that tradition was Charles-Marie Widor. Widor was so inspired by the organs of Cavaillé-Coll that he wrote no less than 10 organ symphonies. Of course, one of the most famous pieces from that body of work was the toccata from the Fifth Organ Symphony. I'm going to play a different piece, but very similar. I'm going to perform the finale from his Second Organ Symphony. Well, we are in a very unique place. This is the organ shop, which is downstairs in the Cadet Chapel. And not every church or chapel has its own organ shop. But this organ shop was created in 1948 when the original organist who is here, Frederick Meyer, decided that he wanted to have curators continue what was becoming the world's largest pipe organ in a church, continuing to be able to maintain and build it from when the Moeller Organ Company had built the organ. And so what we are seeing here is where we have woodwork and we have pipe voicing and really almost everything that you will see in a pipe organ shop we actually can do here by ourselves. So especially some of the maintenance work, some of the smaller pieces that we're able to do in this organ, we are able to do here. I'm pleased to be joined too by our head organ curator and our associate organ curator. Mr. Grant Chapman is the head organ curator here. He has been the fourth head organ curator since 1948. Our associate, Mr. Victor Hoyt, who has also worked many, many years with Austin organs, is with us as well. And so, gentlemen, I just looking at all this, I just kind of want to get a sense with organ tuning, maintenance, everything that is done with the organ, as I said, is done here at West Point. And I just wanted to, maybe you could show the people a little bit of what this is and overall what exactly that we do here. That is, so, I mean, there's just so many things that's going on. For example, we see some work that's being done here on some of the wind chests. I think this is for one of our 32-foot pedal stops.
Yes, well, we're trying to upgrade some of the stuff that was damaged many years ago in a storm. We had some water in the organ. And we've also been doing some work, as you'll see, on our east lower one. So in conjunction with that, with new wind lines that are going upstairs, we're upgrading some of the wind boxes that are just inside the entrance of the organ. This is an old one here, and was built, when do you think this was built?
1990s.
90s? Okay.
1990s, okay.
So this is a little small, and it was a little low, and we want to upgrade the wind line from flex to metal. So I had to build a larger one out of better materials. And this is the faceplate for it here. And we'll be cutting a new hole. This is the old one where the old faceplate was. So that's the kind of thing that we can do in the shop here, because we have all these wonderful tools, thanks to largely to Grant, who upgraded this shop over the last 20 years to be a really fully functioning wood shop. So
great. I know that my position as organist choirmaster obviously has a certain amount of notoriety, but also the position of organ curator here at the West Point Cadet Chapel. It's probably a position that even deserves to be better known. And I just want to ask Grant just to explain a little bit of just how important really it is that what the curator of organs is doing here at West Point.
I'm responsible for all of the instruments in all of the chapels on West Point, and the job ends up being primarily administrative. You have to go out, inspect, plan, and then execute within the scope of what you can do in the shop. It has to be fairly well equipped, or what you have to farm out to others. And then if we can do a balance between the skills we can bring here compared to what we can buy to others, we can do more here and we can do it better.
That's great. I find that I have to work with these two gentlemen quite a bit just to inform what I do with the organ when I'm playing. We had a major lightning strike about 12 years ago, and it has been a continual process of rebuilding the instrument, working with different parts. What I'm going to be showing us now is how you're going to see the east side organ blower, and things are going to be looking very, very new. You're actually going to see how things are when they have been worked. And again, kind of what Grant said a little bit, this of course is very extensive work done by people on the outside, but these gentlemen have to keep real strict tabs on how everything works in this very unique, historic Gothic chapel in this building. And then what we're going to do is take a brief look at the west organ blower, which hasn't been refurbished yet. You'll see it just looks a little older, a little bit more seasoned. So anyway, we're going to be looking at those blowers now. So I'm standing here in the recently refurbished east blower room. This has been newly repainted, acoustic paneling on the walls, and this houses the Spencer organ blower that I'm standing next to. This is a 30 horsepower blower, much larger than your standard issue, and this powers just the east side of the organ. This dates from the 1920s, but of course it looks new. It has been totally rebuilt, it has been newly repainted, and it stands next to another blower, which is down here on my left. And this blower down here is the vacuum blower. What that does is, you saw when I was playing the organ, sometimes changing some of the pistons, you saw a lot of stops moving. And all that blower does is assist with air the movement of the stops on the console, which has 874 stops. And so these blowers now work very efficiently. They're ready for the next 100 years of operation, and they are in an acoustical environment which is virtually silent when you close the doors and step outside of the room. Now I'm going to go over and we're going to take a look at the west blower. I mentioned this is 30 horsepower. That blower over there is 60 horsepower. And you're going to see that that has not been rebuilt yet. That is the next big project we are doing. So you're going to see that it's in more of its original 1920s condition. So now we are standing in the room that houses the 60 horsepower blower, and this provides wind to the west organ. We were just in the room that houses the east blower and the vacuum blower, and this is the source of wind for the west organ. You can see here a blower and a room that has not been reconditioned yet, like the other room, but within the next year or two, you are going to see this blower and this room transformed into what you just saw. I should say that this largest pipe organ in a church in the world has no less than 7 blowers that provide wind to various divisions of the organ, as well as the vacuum blower that I mentioned. And this is all tied together in this building with literally hundreds of thousands of miles of electrical wire. Obviously, it can circle the world many, many times. So this is a very, very complex, but also very monumental instrument. And certainly you can see the size of what we are dealing with right here. Now what we're going to do is, as we've been downstairs, now we're going to go up 2 levels and actually see some of the pipes in one of the actual chambers, and we'll get a glimpse of what the organ looks like above. Here we are inside the pipe chambers of this organ. This particular chamber that we are in is the Swell division. And as you can see, where we are may be almost as large as an entire organ somewhere else. But here at the Cadet Chapel, this is actually only the west side, and this is only one half of the west side. There also is across the chancel the east side organ. And actually what you have in this chamber, this is only the first of 3 chambers that are stacked on top of each other. So above this is the choir division, and then above that is one of the great divisions, so that even goes that much higher. And you can see in this division, we even have 2 levels. So you have some pipes up here. Of course, you've got the pipes arrayed here. What you see here too are concrete walls. And so this concrete insulates the sound in this chamber, as well as allowing the sound to be projected through the swell shades that are to my right. Now what we're going to do, having seen this, is we're going to proceed into one of the balcony areas under one of the transepts, where you will see some of the pedal pipes. And then from there, we will proceed into one of the balcony areas where you can see the true size of the chapel and how the organ is arrayed throughout the chapel. I am now under the west balcony in the transept. And as I walk the length of the balcony, this is about 32 feet. How do I know this is 32 feet? Because right to the side of me here is the bottom octave of the 32-foot ophicleide, one of 2 full-length reeds in this organ. And this set of pipes here is the one rank in the Cadet Chapel that was produced and voiced by the Aeolian Skinner Organ Company. I'm walking from the chamber where we just were, and now I am walking towards the balcony, and now we're going to see what the chapel looks like from the balcony. I'm standing here in the west balcony of the chapel, and you can see with the open air, we're looking across at the east balcony. Also get a wonderful view here of the east facade of the organ and just the overall majesty of this chapel, which was built in 1910. And now we can also see how the world's largest pipe organ in a church fills the space. I want to thank you for joining me today and visiting with me, hearing and seeing this wonderful organ at the West Point Cadet Chapel.